Here are my 5 things I wish I knew before starting a school garden club. So the first one is student interest. Do you have any students that are interested? And if so, which grades are they in? Because when I just started a garden club my first year, I started it with 5th graders, and I had about like 10 to 15 5th graders who were interested. We put in some work. That garden was amazing, and the kids absolutely loved it. And we were able to cover some 3rd through 5th grade science standards. I taught them outside with the garden beds, and that was pretty amazing. So the second time I started a garden club, I transferred to a different school as a instructional staff developer. So I didn't really have any students of my own. They were all kind of my students, but I really wanted to start a garden club because we were discussing in our staff meetings, hey, we need some clubs. And this was after COVID things were just lifted and we were allowed to have clubs again. So I was willing to, get garden clubs started. And to my surprise, we had so many students interested. There were anywhere between like 50 to 70 students interested in garden club. And most of them were really young. It was kindergartners, mainly kindergartners. So kindergartners through, I think the oldest were 3rd graders. I had to think about, this is going to be a different garden club from the one I had at my other school where it was just 5th graders. And so you got to think about how are you going to do garden club with kindergartners versus 5th graders. So this one was K through 3rd grade garden club, and I really wanted to accept all of the students. So I really had to gather some teacher volunteers, some school staff volunteers who were willing to do garden club with me so that I wouldn't have to deny some students because, hey, I'm only one person. I cannot handle 60 students outside. I don't even have the resources for it. You need gloves. I'll get to that in a little bit. But number 1, student interest, right? Are you going to do this with kindergartners? Are you going to do it with 5th graders? How many students are going to be interested? How many are you going to accept? And if you're the only person sponsoring this club, how are you going to deny the kids that won't be able to attend? Is it a first come, first serve? So really think about how are you going to manage this whole thing. Number 2 would be gathering volunteers. So if you're like me and you don't want to deny any students the joy of gardening, how are you going to gather these volunteers? Are you going to, ask teachers, ask other school staff? Can parents volunteer at your school? So just think about that. And luckily for me, I had, I think, 10 teachers volunteering. So there were plenty of us to do this garden club with 60 kids. And so we kind of split the kids among the teachers and myself. Okay, number 3 of the things I wish I knew before starting garden club is lesson planning. Do you have to write a lesson for the clubs at your school? At one of my schools, I did have to have a lesson prepared. And because I was paid for this garden club and it had to be educational, it had to cover the state standards. So everything that we did in garden club was science related, so it covered the science standard, and I did have some lessons planned, which I will share some of them. I don't have them all saved, but I do have some, and I will link them in the description, including my like flyers and attendance trackers and some of the activities I did. I'll try to type up the other activities I did that cover the science standards. I just don't have them up on my store. Even if your school doesn't require you to write a lesson plan or turn in a lesson plan for the clubs, it's a good idea to have a plan just for yourself so you're organized. Also think about what if it rains? Are you still going to hold the garden club? Are you going to have it indoors? If you have too many students, can you even have it in the classroom? What kind of activity are you going to do in the classroom? And you can do garden club in your classroom. I mean, it doesn't have to always be outside. You don't have to be planting things every single day. Moving on. Number 4, funding. Gardening can be expensive. I mean, if you have a garden in your home, it costs a lot of money. At least to start a garden here in my house, it did cost me a pretty penny. And same thing if you're going to start a garden club at your school. Think about how you're going to pay for all the tools, the shovels, the gardening gloves. Are you going to plant in beds? Do you need to buy some gardening beds? It depends on what space you have at your school. Where are you going to hold this gardening club? You have to buy soil, mulch, seeds, plants, pots. I mean, the list goes on and on. So make a list of all the things you will need and how much it's going to cost you, and think about where are you going to get this money from. I was lucky enough that my bookkeeper had some money for clubs, and we were able to purchase literally everything I needed through the funds at my school, through the bookkeeper. And I also emailed, I think, the nutrition department in my district, and they had some money for me. Like, they were just like, okay, here you go. They gave me, I think, like $100 or $150, and it was a good start. Anyways, moving on to number 5. Clean up. Oh my gosh. Okay. Kids are messy. Gardening club is messy. It's gonna get messy. Their gloves are going to be just obviously dirty, right? It's going to be all over their clothes, the dirt. Think about, do you have garden gloves, first of all? How are the kids going to wash their hands after you're done with garden club? Do they have to go back to your classroom? Are there bathrooms near your garden club? Like, have a plan. Have a plan for that. For, cleaning up, washing their hands. Where are you going to put all of these tools and materials after you're done gardening for the day? Do you have like a little shed outside? We had like a little shed thing. It was like $150, I think, from Amazon. It was like this plastic shed thing, and it fit everything in there. So, but at first, I had to bring everything back to my classroom, and it was a mess. I do not recommend that. Their clothes, they're going to get dirty. Is your school a uniform school? Make sure the parents know on which day the kids have gardening club, so they have a change of clothes. If they're wearing their fancy clothes on that school day, you don't want to garden in that. So those are my 5 things I I have actually, as I'm speaking right now, I can think of more things I wish I knew. And I'm gonna have to make a whole another video for that, because I can honestly keep talking about this, but I'm gonna stop myself right there. But let me know if there are any other questions that you have about starting a school gardening club. Just comment it in the comment section and I'll respond. I hope this video was helpful, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.